Hello, and welcome to the Minnesota Association of Townships Matt University. Today we're going to be continuing our series on township roads with a module on town line roads. We're going to start with the statutory background, including what roads does this apply to, how we divide responsibilities, and what happens after the division. We're going to continue with disagreements and cover some example clauses. Finally, for those who are interested, we'll provide resources for further information. Minnesota Statute 164.12 governs roads on town lines. That statute tells us that we are bound to a special process when we establish, alter, vacate, or even maintain a town road that is, quote, on or along adjoining towns. That special process involves contact with the neighboring town board. We must divide responsibilities, and we must enter into an agreement with them. This language comes from Subdivision 2 and Subdivision 3 of the same statute. Quote, the town boards shall divide the length of the road proposed to be established, altered, vacated, or maintained into two parts. After the division, the boards shall enter into an agreement specifying which part shall be vacated, opened, constructed, and maintained by each. The law also provides a standard by which we are to divide it. This comes again from Minnesota Statute 164.12 Subdivision 2. When it is proposed to establish or alter a road, the division shall be made so as to divide as nearly equal as possible the cost of right-of-way, construction, and maintenance. If the proposal is to vacate, the division shall be made so as to divide so nearly equal as possible any damages that may be occasioned thereby. Thus, there's both a physical and a financial component to this. We're supposed to divide the entire road, and we're supposed to divide it so as to divide as nearly equally as possible the costs involved. The statute also specifies what happens after the division. The boards shall enter into an agreement specifying which part shall be vacated, opened, constructed, and maintained by each, and thereafter each board shall proceed in the manner and subject to the same review as provided in section 164.06 or 164.07, that is, the formal establishment of a road. This process is important to keep in mind because the statute repeatedly uses the word shall. There is authority out there tending to suggest that a town board's actions in contravention of this statute, that is, if we treat it like an ordinary road, the action can be invalid. One of the odder implications of this way of dividing responsibility is that a town can end up responsible for a road segment that is entirely within the boundaries of a different town. That reading of an agreement was upheld by the Minnesota Supreme Court in the 1980 case Scheneman v. Arago Township. Of course, there's an obvious follow-up question to that. What happens if someone gets hurt along one of these extraterritorial road segments? In a follow-up case, Huver v. Huver v. Opatz, the Minnesota Supreme Court in 1986 held that we can allocate both costs and legal responsibility under this statute. That is, if a chunk of road is by agreement your township's responsibility, the other township is able to disclaim responsibility for any accidents that occur along that road. This is one of the reasons that it's so important to reduce these agreements to writing. Of course, just because the law says we have to agree doesn't mean that we actually will come to an agreement. The statute provides for this case. If the towns can't agree, or if a previously agreed upon division has proven to be, quote, inequitable, unquote, then the first appeal goes to the county board, or boards if your township line occurs along a county line. If that doesn't work, then the next step is mediation or arbitration. So what do these things look like in practice? On your screen now, you will be seeing some example clauses from document TR 11,000. This is one way in which town line agreements can be reduced to writing. The association recommends being as particular as possible with these agreements. For example, providing for who will pay for tree removal, who will pay for major repair, who will pay for drainage structures, and stuff of that nature. Of course, each road is an individual road, and the township boards will have to accommodate their agreements to individual circumstances. Nevertheless, foresight and careful planning can prevent expensive disputes later on down the line. For those of you who are interested in further information, please see document TR 11000 on our information library. Thank you for your time and your attention.